Any other questions? Go on, bro.
So there is these two verses in the Bible that made me have a bit of a crisis in faith quite recently, or have any multiple. Do you know in Leviticus 25?
Yep.
Yeah, 44 to 46, where it has, some say that's the explicit endorsement of slavery, about how you can have foreign slaves and you can bequeath them to your children as long as you buy them slaves from the nations around you, and how it says that you have to treat your Israelite slaves with care, but it doesn't mention that you have to do the same with foreign slaves. And so basically, it says the slaves will become your property, foreign slaves, and sometimes that's the explicit endorsement of chattel slaves.
So what's the question?
What would you say your answer would be to the argument about how the Bible has explicit chattel slavery?
Right. So the first thing I want to say to all of you, I want to give you counsel, is if you're someone who can be rocked by an argument of an atheist, then you don't have the spiritual constitution for apologetics. If you're someone who has a crisis in faith because some atheist made an argument to you, get out of the debating arena, right? Look after your own soul. Your soul is precious, and you must protect and guard your soul as a Christian, which means that if you're someone who's having their faith rocked because you heard an argument, then stop looking for the arguments, please. Stop looking for arguments. Stop looking for arguments that are anti-Christian. Stop engaging in debate, because your salvation is the most precious thing that you can have. And so, my brother, I say to you, if you're having a crisis of conscience because you keep getting involved in debates, stop having debates, because your salvation is more important than anything else. Now, to the question about chattel slavery, again, it's because you haven't rooted yourself in a Christian identity. Christians don't go onto the street and say, follow the covenant of Moses. I've never once seen any Christian go anywhere and say, follow Moses' teachings. What do? We say, follow Jesus Christ, who at a time when slavery was normal, never had a slave. At a time when slavery was normal, said that I have come to set the captives free, quoting Isaiah. When Isaiah said the captives, he was talking about slaves. And Christ inspired his church to set slaves free by that statement. And Christians for 2,000 years, including through 1,400 years of Islamic slave trading, consistently set slaves free. If I want to buy a black child as a slave today, I go to the Islamic world to do it. It'll cost me less than a hamburger. But yet Muslims feel no shame about this. Christians are the ones who are tackling the slave trade. Christians are the ones who forced Muslims to stop the slave trade. It was not liberal secular humanists who ended the slave trade. When America was established in 1775, they allowed the slave trade to continue. When the French Republic came under the auspices of Napoleon, if I got my history right, Napoleon allowed slavery to continue. It was Christians that abolished the slave trade, not once, but multiple times in history. So we don't need to take lessons from atheists, because we've been battling the slave trade for 2,000 years, and you don't even know how to pick up a history book, because if you did, you wouldn't ask such silly questions. Any other questions? No, someone else. Go on.
Isn't there like a part of time where the slave owners manipulated the Bible because they knew it would defend the slaves?
Thank you for the softball question. Perfect example of how much the Bible is against slavery. In the southern states of the US, when slavery continued, the slave owners felt a religious obligation to convert the slaves to Christianity, so they gave them Bibles. But the slave owners feared the Bible. They feared that if they just gave a Bible to the slaves, the Bible might inspire the slaves to rebel against slavery. So the slave owners redacted and revised the Bible, despite the condemnation in Revelations, and redacted and revised the Bible and took entire books and entire sections of the Bible out. If anything proves to you that the Bible is an anti-slavery text, it is the fact that slave owners didn't have the courage to just give the Bible to their slaves without taking out huge sections of it because they feared it would inspire them to rebel against slavery. By the way, Muslims have never tried to free their slaves as a whole. There's been no abolition movement amongst the Muslim world. You can still buy slaves in the Muslim world today. So if we're having a conversation about slavery, let's talk about modern forms of Islamic slavery and why it isn't being tackled. Any other questions or comments?
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course you can.
Like, it depends, like, for example, like, part of the zakat is freeing slaves.
Yeah, I know that.
Like the Prophet Muhammad, he didn't like to call them slaves, and he said that one of the biggest virtues is to free slaves. So, like, it depends. If some people are not following it,
Shall I reply to that, bro? Yeah, so the reality is, of course, as the brother points out, Muslims are instructed to free slaves. I don't deny it. I don't doubt it. But the fact of the matter is, Sharia law regulates the practice of slavery eternally. It institutionalizes it. And that is why for 1400 years, including into the present day, despite the fact there are Muslims that set slaves free, if Islam had abolished slavery, there would be no slaves to set free. The fact that you can be talking about setting slaves free means that you are practicing slavery. Did you know that Muhammad gave a slave as a gift to his daughter Fatima? He gave a human being as a gift. Bro, that's not an example you should follow. Do you think it is a good human being that gives another human being as a gift to someone else? I hope you don't, because if you do, something has gone wrong in your heart. Christianity is a better way. Christians were abolishing slavery in England when Muhammad was practicing slavery in the Arabian Peninsula. Christians have abolished slavery countless times in countless places. But the fact of the matter is, the liberal education system will never teach you that. Why? Because the liberal education system wants you to hate Christianity, so they leave you with the impression that Christians practiced slavery for 1,700 years. It's not true. That's not a historically accurate statement. Christians abolished slavery multiple times in multiple places. That's real history. Any other questions or comments?
So the thing is with Leviticus 25, it's not that, I know Christians don't practice this today, but it's the argument that why would God allow it in the first place, property owning of other humans?
Right. The reason why God allowed slavery in the past is because if I said to all of you right now, and bro, you've asked this question multiple times, so I don't know why you keep asking the same question. If I said to you, guys, I teach that God says to you, live without money, live without credit cards, live without banks, live without money in any form, how many of you would be starving inside of a month? The reality is you can't live without money because you live in an economy that's drenched in the financial structures of our age. So if God had said to a slave economy, live without slaves, the first thing that would have happened is no one would know what to do. In the same way that if I told you live without money, no one would know what to do.
Do you believe in
I'm sorry, let me finish his question.
Yes, sir,
Don't be rude.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, control yourself. Let me deal with his question, then I'll deal with yours.
I'll join in on you.
Yeah, well, you can just hold
Go
on.
on, sir. I'm listening.
Stop being rude.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I want to know what the religion's all about.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the reality is,
Yes.
you've got a TikToker here who wants a bit of fame. right? So the reality is, ladies and gentlemen,
He's not wrong.
there you go. So the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that the fact of the matter is that just as God allowed divorce in the time of Moses because of the hardness of their heart, despite the fact that Jesus said it wasn't like that in the beginning, so he allowed slavery at the beginning. Why? Because the Jews could not think or behave any other way. It doesn't mean that that is what God has wanted. The Messianic age, according to the prophecies of Isaiah, would see the liberation of the slaves. And Jesus inspired the liberation of the slaves. And that is why Christians for 2,000 years have liberated slaves. Now, if you interrupt one more time, I just won't engage with you. I won't answer any questions and I won't talk to you.
I'll wait.
So
Go on,
control
let's go,
yourself.
sir.
I'm going to take a question from someone else
no
and then
worries.
I'll come back to you.
Thank
Control
you, sir.
yourself.
Thank you.
Not interested in helping you with some TikTok catch bit to bait, click,
YouTube.
whatever it is. Anyway, so the reality is, guys, as Christians, we have been fighting slavery for 2,000 years. 2,000! Muslims have never fought slavery. Never! And yet we're supposed to take lectures from them about degeneracy, about backward morals? No! Get rid of your slave teaching, then come and talk to me about morality. And brother, my point to you is that the atheists keep making the same false argument, and you're repeating the same false argument. As Christians, we live in the new covenant, not the old covenant. We live under the law of Christ, which is to love our neighbor as ourselves. Would I want someone to own me as a slave? No. Well, that means that I don't want you to be owned as a slave because I love you like I love myself. So if I don't want to be a slave, I oppose all slavery. If I don't want to be poor, I oppose poverty. If I don't want to be raped, I oppose rape. If I don't want to be discriminated against, I oppose discrimination. And that's the law of Christ. The good that you want for yourself is the good that you fight for your neighbor. And who's your neighbor? Anyone in need.
The Christians.
Right, any other questions?
Can I ask a question now?
No, because you were rude. Go on.
You said that
Did the Christians
And now
have
I won't
slaves?
engage with you at all. Go on.
Did the Christians have slaves,
you
sir?
said that the liberal school
I heard that the
system
Muslims...
Sorry, he's big rude. Go on.
You said that the liberal school system wants to hate Christianity.
Yes.
Why should it?
Right, a great question.
Because
Go on.
I've never felt in school that, so we're in Germany and we have religious class or ethics class, and I've never felt that anybody wants me to hate Christianity.
Right. So let me address that point.
I should think critically about what I'm being taught.
So let me address that question. How does liberalism betray its hatred of Christianity? Betrays its hatred of Christianity by not telling Europeans the real history. Doesn't teach them about the full depth and breadth and beauty of our Christian heritage. It doesn't teach them to be proud of their Christian heritage. It doesn't even teach them about Christianity. He thinks because he has a religious studies class that he's learned about Christianity. No, he hasn't. Not at all. It doesn't teach them that Christians were fighting for their survival in Europe through 1,400 years of Islamic aggression. This is the way that it betrays its prejudice. And why does it have that prejudice? It has that prejudice because the Enlightenment is born in reaction to Christianity, particularly the trauma of the Reformation wars. And so the Enlightenment wants to instill enlightened values rather than Christian values in you. And the only way that it can do that is by not really teaching you about Christianity. Because I bet you, if I asked you some basic questions of Christianity, you'd flunk it, you'd fail. You wouldn't be able to answer them. And the reason why you wouldn't be able to answer them is because the German state has never taught you about Christianity. It just makes you think that it has taught you about Christianity. You wanted to ask a question?
So, do you think that in Christian class you have to teach
only the history, because in Germany we will teach about like to love the neighbors as themselves, and then all the moral things and not the history. But would you say that in like the general people have to be taught more about the history of every religion?
Right, so let me answer that question precisely. So now you demonstrate exactly what I'm saying. The reality is that Christianity is an ontological faith. It's a way of being human. It's a way of being a human being. And Christians belong to a covenant people. They are united together in a covenant in what is called the church. And that covenant people have a history, the history of the Christian church. It isn't just about loving your neighbor, it's about loving God. And how do you love God? And how do you love your neighbor? And how do you love your brothers and sisters in the church? This is what Christianity is. It's about forming your soul so that it embodies virtue and truth in equal measure. This is what Christianity is about. And so if the German state was to really teach you about Christianity, it would teach you about Christians' contribution to art, Christian contribution to science, Christian contribution to philosophy, to welfare, to healthcare, Christian contribution to culture, the struggles that the church went through, the fact that it had to fight for survival through 1400 years of Islamic jihad. But you don't get to hear about any of that because the state has never taught you about Christianity. It only makes you think that it has. I bet you couldn't even tell me. So for instance, tell us what are the basic beliefs of the Christians?
Loving thy neighbor.
See, you can't even answer the question because you got it wrong. That is not the basic beliefs of Christianity. The basic beliefs of Christianity is that Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. You couldn't even answer the very basic question. So that is why I know that you have never been taught about Christianity. Any other questions? Let someone else ask a question, guys. Let someone else. Let someone else. You flunked it, bro. Just like I said you would flunk it. Let someone else ask a question. I'll come back to you. I will come back to you. I will come back to you. But let someone else ask a question. Any other questions or comments, guys? Any other questions or comments? Go on, sister.
I'd just like to know what you feel about the bad examples of Christianity within Christian countries. So you did mention...
Could you give us an example?
So the slavery that we have had, I'm going to go mainly for the Americas within Christian states. I'd go for a lot of the beheadings of women, especially within Germany. You guys had a big period of that.
Are you talking about the witch? Okay. So let me,
So I'm just asking what you feel about those sorts of things that occurred within Christian countries,
Yes.
Christian states,
Okay.
and also what
Yeah.
you try.
So what about the examples of all the bad things that Christians have done? Now, I want you to know in your own heart, guys, that you all find it far easier to talk about the bad things that the church has done than talk about any of the good things that the church has done. You know in your own heart when you think about it that that's true. You can give me a litany of everything the church has done wrong, but how many of you can give me a litany of all the things that the church has done right or done well? And that's the point about liberal education being anti-Christian. But to answer your point directly, of course Christians have done bad things because there's been hundreds of millions of Christians in countless civilizations for 2,000 years. So of course some Christians are going to get things done wrong. But the very fact that we can identify that they have done wrong is because of Christian education. We know that burning women and accusing them of being witches was Christians failing to be Christian because you can't find anything in the Bible to justify that, ladies and gentlemen. We know that slavery in America was wrong because the Bible, as we talked about earlier, actually is an anti-slavery text. Therefore, when Christians are doing things like the witch trials in Central Europe, which were mainly around France, northern Italy and southern Germany, in that little pocket there, or owning slaves in the southern states of the US, they were doing it despite Christianity or in spite of Christianity, not because of Christianity. And so that, sister, is how I would address that question. Right, one of you two wanted to ask.
Say the things that you mentioned that we have never been taught about. We have.
So why did you get the question wrong, bro?
Because I didn't care and I didn't pay attention. And we had a bad teacher, but that's the point. We have been taught about the contributions to welfare system. We have been taught about the contribution to science, into science and Bible and the science that has contradicted the Bible is not really a contradiction. We've been taught about all of that. It's just like chemistry class. I don't pay attention.
So like, bro, like, here's the thing. You're claiming. Well, what school did you go to? Was it a church school?
No.
State school.
Yes.
So you're saying in the state curriculum, they're talking about Christianity's positive contribution to Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to investigate that. However, going off what you guys are saying, it seems to confirm exactly what I'm saying. Because you couldn't even answer a very basic question.
Yeah, that was my fault.
That is your fault. Yeah, exactly. Any other questions, guys? You've asked loads. Go on. Are you sure you want to make that your question, bro? Because you get one question.
Yes.
Right. Am I a Catholic? If by Catholic you mean Roman Catholic, the answer is no. If by Catholic you mean do I believe in one apostolic and Catholic church, the answer is yes. Okay, any other questions or comments, guys? Go on.
There was a YouTube short from some people in the atheist experience, and what they said basically is that Jesus basically endured suffering beyond all comprehension, was nailed to the cross, and he suffered his entire life. And basically they just want to point out that how basically God asks his children to bear horrible suffering for this slight momentary affliction that is known as life, and then they go on to say that Jesus suffered and Jesus then got to heaven in the end to be on the right hand man who is God and the co-vice ruler of the universe. So
okay.
Why should we care about the suffering if there's no point here?
So the reality is that this is another ignorant characterization of atheists. This idea that Christ suffered meaninglessly. The reality is Christ did not suffer meaninglessly. His sufferings were for the purposes of our salvation. His sufferings and his death were for our healing and for our redemption. In the same way, ladies and gentlemen, that when a Marine throws himself on a hand grenade, it's not a meaningless act. He's doing it to save those in his squad. He's doing it to save others. No one would then turn around to that person and go, well, that was pretty pointless. Of course it's not pointless. Everyone would call that man a hero. That's exactly what Jesus does. He puts himself in the way of the curse that we should rightly have for not keeping God's law, and he pays the debt that we have failed to pay. That's what Jesus does on the cross. So it's just another false characterization of belief. And the reality is that we must enter into that mystery of Christ's salvation willingly and freely. That's with love. And because we do it with love, it has to be free. And if it has to be free, then people have to be able to reject it and go another path. Okay, guys, I'm going to take one more question and then I'm done.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. As you saying that when you believe in Jesus, you'll be saved.
Yeah.
Yes. So if we assume that Hitler, doing what he has done,
Yep.
and then he ended up just believing in Jesus, will he be saved?
Right. So the first question is, how probable is it that a person that did what Hitler did is on a path to truth? How probable is it that a person that behaves like Adolf Hitler has any concern for truth? I personally think that that's highly unlikely. But let's imagine a scenario in which somehow, despite the course and trajectory of his entire life, somehow in the last day he develops a real concern for truth and concludes that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth and the life, and that his former life and everything that he had done up to that day was wrong, and he repented. I believe as a Christian he will be in heaven. Why? Because Jesus Christ paid for his debts as well. By contrast, but the reality is someone who lives a life like that probably has no concern for truth at all and probably didn't repent. Someone who lives a life like that is someone who goes to their death thinking that what they did was right. The fact of the matter is his punishment is paid for by Christ in the same way that my punishment, the curse, is paid for by Christ. That debt is paid for by Christ, and so he is saved.
Don't mind me, I can rephrase maybe a question. Let's say that someone, Christian, not Muslim, but I'm asking...
Are you a Muslim?
I mean, regardless of what...
I'm guessing you're a Muslim. Are you a Muslim? Okay, I'm going to assume from this point onward you are a Muslim. Okay.
You can assume what.
Yeah.
I'm asking the question is that what would be the reason for a Christian not to commit any kind of illegal or let's say any kind of offense or violation or you name it.
Yeah.
And then he will say, well, I'll as long as I believe.
Okay,
in Jesus,
so let me answer that question. So the reality is, as Christians, the Bible encourages us to build our life on truth and virtue. If you're building your life on truth and virtue, you're not in a place where you just go and do any sin that you want. In Romans chapter 6, your very question is addressed directly, but no Muslim has ever bothered to pick up a Bible and read it sincerely because in Romans 6, it actually answers your question directly. It says that we are forbidden to pursue sin just because Christ died for our sins. It actually says exactly the opposite. It says because Christ died for our sins, that we should live a life of gratefulness. So if I gave you a gift, brother, right? A mansion worth 20 million pounds. Like, what attitude are you going to go into that gift with? Are you going to step into the house and start smashing it to pieces? Or are you going to go, wow, I am so fortunate. I've now been given this 20 million pound house for free. I'm going to look after it. Maybe I'll sell it later. But the point is, when you're given a gift, gratitude means that you look after it. So when a Christian receives the free gift, okay, it is not, I'm going to finish the point. So when a Christian receives the free gift of salvation, the response to that is that we care for the gift that we have. However, we can't take lectures from Muslims about the idea of, brother, we can't take lectures from Muslims about the idea, how can Jesus die for our sins? Doesn't that mean that we can do whatever we want? Because Muslims believe that the sins of Muslims are put on the backs of Jews and Christians are put into hell with the sins of Muslims. The hadiths also teach. The hadiths also teach. Don't talk to him. The hadiths also teach that if a woman's child dies, if a woman's child dies, the death of her children helps to protect her from hell. That's a hadith. The problem with the Muslim brother right here is he doesn't know his own hadiths. He doesn't know. No, I'm doing Q&A, bro.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
You can ask a question, but let's get this clear in your mind. I'm taking a question from you. I'm not having a debate with you.
Okay, you don't need to debate me.
Yeah.
But I've never heard in my 26 years, wallahi, And you say to these people, easy, that the Muslims believe that our sins are on the Jews and Christians. Wallahi, that's a lie. And hear this, say no, hear this. That is the bit, wallahi, no one believes that. I don't believe that.
Right, I'm going to show him.
And are you over answering Islam, making up hadith?
I'm going to show him a hadith.
Just wait, let him give you the evidence.
Imagine that I
then
make
continue.
a trinity.
Right, now notice he's trying to kidnap the conversation. He's asked his question.
Okay.
I'm now going to give him his evidence, but rather than listen to the evidence, he wants to talk to you guys.
Okay, go.
So now I'm going to show him that he doesn't know as much as he thinks he does. Right, bear with us.
So just wait. When he shows you the hadith, argue with knowledge if you have any other hadith science.
Right, are you listening? Are you listening? Wait. No.
Okay, no.
Right, guys, I'm going to talk to you because he just wants to hijack the conversation. So in Hadith, Sahih Muslim
not one Muslim
2767, it says this: when it will be the day of resurrection, Allah would deliver to every Muslim a Jew or a Christian and say, that is your rescue from hellfire. Frightened of your own hadith. It's right there. It's right there. Right there. No, I'm doing a Q&A. You're just trying to hijack.
Please debate me.
I'm just
Because
doing.
you're going to give these things. Okay, hold on.
Right.
Hey, listen.
Sahih Muslim 2767b. It says this: no Muslim. Look, I'll read it to you. No Muslim would die, but Allah would admit in his stead a Jew or a Christian in hellfire.
So our sins are going to go to
Umar,
Christian and
that's
Jew.
what your hadiths are saying.
Hold on.
That's what your hadiths are saying.
Hold on.
By one besides whom there is no God but he, thrice, that is his father, had narrated to him from Allah's messenger. Let me read you another hadith.
No.
So that's two.
Can I?
No.
You gave me first proof. Can I say how wrong that is?
No, because you're trying to hijack my conversation.
That didn't prove your point.
So let me read another one.
actually ignorant.
Sahih Muslim 2767. There would come people amongst the Muslims. Listen, there would come people amongst the Muslims on the day of resurrection with as heavy as sins as a mountain,
Can I-
and Allah would forgive them. And he would place in their stead Jews and Christians. Place in their stead Jews and Christians. I do not know as to who is in doubt. Abu Burda said, I narrated it to... So, there you go.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Right.
Can I ask you a question?
Well, let someone else ask a question. Yeah.
Dude, we need to respond to each other.
Bro, I'm doing a Q&A. He just wants to hijack the Q&A.
We need to respond to each other.
No, bro, you
We need to
came.
respond
No,
to each other.
you
Be
came
civil,
into
can
my.
we be- can we be
Well, you be civil
Can we be
then.
civil?
You be civil
Can
then.
we be civil?
Yeah, practice civilry.
I'm saying.
No, bro.
when
This is what
monotheists-
civility is.
Look, God's
I was
watching
doing a
us.
Q&A, and you're trying to kidnap
You're
it.
lying
You're
to
trying to
the- you're
hijack
lying to
it.
the young
You're
people.
lying to your. You're lying about your own religion.
You're
Look,
corrupting the youth.
some women request. Listen to this.
Socrates is
Listen.
constantly lying to you guys.
In Sahih al-Bukhari 101. Here's another one. Sahih, come back. Sahih al-Bukhari 101. Look, Sahih al-Bukhari. Some women requested the Prophet to fix a day for them as the men were taking all his time. On that he promised them one day, listen, one day for religious lessons and commandments. Once during such a lesson, the Prophet said, a woman whose 3 children die will be shielded. Are you listening? Listen, look at the evidence. A woman whose 3 children will die will be shielded. Don't let him take control. Yeah, listen. A woman whose 3 children will be shielded by them from hellfire. Did you see the evidence? So who's lying? Who's lying? Right. So let's talk about this.
You don't
Come
want to
here.
debate.
Right, let's come and do it in front of the camera. Because, come here.
You said Q&A.
Brother.
You're corrupting the youth.
Brother.
You're lying to the youth.
Right.
You're lying
You got
to the youth.
20 minutes of my time. Let's do a 20-minute debate.
You didn't want to debate.
You got 20
You didn't
minutes.
want to debate.
Right.
You didn't want to
Answer
debate.
this question.
You don't want to debate.
Answer the
You don't want to
question.
debate.
Yeah, he's running. I'm offering the debate. He's running now. I'm offering the debate and he's running now. I'm offering the debate and he's running now. I'm offering the debate and he's running now. I'm offering the debate. You're running. I'm offering the debate and you're running. I'm offering the debate and you're running. There you go. Right? Bye.